We went from having drought conditions here in central Ohio to having 4 or 5 straight days of rain, which means it's been 4 or 5 days since the turd barrels got to ride in the truck. But now that the hurricanes moved out and the blue skies have moved back in, I decided to take June and Chivy down to Burger King for a little lunch date. At least that was the plan until we got to the drive-thru.
I'm about to say, this is pretty stressful.
I'm not sure what was going on, but the screen was all screwed up and turned sideways. And after listening to the confusion in the voice of the lady behind the speaker, I decided it was time to bounce out of here. Me and the dogs weren't interested in sitting in the drive-thru.
Not today.
Me and the girls had to settle for McDonald's, so they ended up with chicken nuggets instead of chicken fries. We're hoping that by this weekend, the weather dries up and so does the track, because Vicky and I plan on going to Trails for the Jack Swack Street Madness event if we can get anything to run. But with our current rate of progress in the shop today, it's not looking very good. Tanner, what's going on?
It's been 2 hours and I have zero idea where my phone is. I've been back and forth, I think 6 or 7 times, just looking around and yelling, "Hey Siri," trying to find my phone.
Evidently, Tanner has somehow lost his phone while changing the tires on Billy's Nova, and he's even resorted to calling the phone to see if he can hear it in the tire. So far, we have no current leads on his phone, but Tanner intends to enlist Buckwheat to help him find it once they get done digging for the hood off this old 71 C10, which I think they plan on trying to reuse on Billy's truck. However, Buckwheat feels it's too nice to cut up.
So was the other one, we still did it.
Although they haven't figured out what they're going to do about the hole in Billy's hood, they did find Tanner's phone. So you found it?
Bucko found it.
Bucko found
The
it?
10 minutes he was here.
Well, well, well.
Billy had Wyatt out here yesterday, and they had that little baby cradle in here so he could lay in it while Billy was working. Well, I put it in the pocket of that baby cradle thing. Well, your wife decided that she was going to take it down and put it in that office, and my phone was still in it. And that's why I couldn't find my phone, because it was in the office, tucked under a bunch of stuff. And then Bucko decided that he was going to call my phone from inside there, and he heard my phone vibrating.
Bucko to the rescue.
Amazing what a little bit of silence will do.
Now that Tanner has found his phone, hopefully we can get back on track and get some work done on Vicky's El Camino up in the main shop. That is, if Tanner can get these motor mounts figured out. Steve, what's going on?
Didn't know that you could just leave the mounts where they were and put the small block right in the car. So I flipped them around, and
He's learning.
on a Mopar, you literally have to put a different K member in the car for you to go from a 6-cylinder to a
That's why we don't drive Klingon.
Although I'm not much of a Mopar fan, I'm definitely not an import fan. Evidently, there's some rule in the Ricer rule book that you can't just let something idle and listen to the cam. You gotta rev the piss out of it. You gotta put it on the dinger. You gotta spit flames and all that shit just to enjoy your car, I guess. I don't know. Now that this thing's fixed, hopefully Billy will take it home and he can aggravate the hell out of his neighbors with it.
What'd you do, lose control of the weed eater?
Not me, Junior.
Sounds like a pissed off from Husqvarna.
It's definitely pissed off.
I'm definitely pissed off.
You're always pissed off.
So this brings us to Wednesday. And since it doesn't look like we're going to have time to finish Vicky's El Camino for the weekend, I figured maybe I'd get Denny's Camaro back up and running for him. Now, if you remember, I went over and pulled the carburetor off of it for him the other day. It's basically an old 750 quick fuel E85 carburetor I built out of spare parts. Oh, that's your first indicator that we're about to have problems. Oh.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't leave the E85 sit.
Yeah. So I kind of figured this is what we were going to find. I think I remember telling Denny that day, I said, I just about bet this carburetor's all gummed up inside. So I had a plan already in place. I just so happen to have an Old Man's Garage Series ATM 750 E85 carburetor set back for another project that never materialized. And since Denny's carburetor's in such bad shape, it'll be easier for me to swap this one out and then freshen up Denny's carburetor when I have more time. E85 absorbs moisture, so if you let it sit long enough in a non-climate controlled area, the fuel in the carburetor will gel up, and you may find yourself staring at something you never wanted to see. We're trying to do important work here. Buckwheat barged in as I was working on this carburetor trying to film something for his channel, so be on the lookout for that in probably 6 months or so. He manages to upload about as frequently as I clean out my parts cleaning tank. It's going to be one of those days, I can see that already.
Yeah, he showed up.
I show up to fix problems.
There's no problems to be fixed.
You are the problem.
The problem fixes itself when you drive out of the driveway.
You were part of that Jim Dandy idea to cut a hole offset in the hood.
I was not a part of that Jim Dandy idea. I just helped him do it.
That makes you part.
You gotta be nice to him. He actually helped you find your phone yesterday.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I would have found it.
How many hours did you spend looking for it?
He told me 2. By your own admission.
I did say that.
I wanted to get Denny's carburetor soaking in the parts cleaning tank before we took this carburetor over to put on his Camaro. Once you let the air get to those carburetor bowls, the jelly inside of it crystallizes and turns solid. So anyway, that's why I brought this new carburetor back from the machine shop last week to put on Denny's car.
So was it a mess?
What, the carburetor?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I knew it was.
It was a total
I'm
disaster.
so sorry. You know, that's just what you need, another headache in it.
Well, you know, it's not as bad as what you might think,
All right.
because I already had a plan.
Oh, what was that?
That's a brand new carburetor.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
It's the old man edition.
Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. Is it the same size as the
Yeah,
other one?
it's all the same. It's just a brand new one.
Dang.
That one's from ATM.
Oh, thank you, ATM.
So the next step is to get this carburetor installed on Denny's big block Camaro. Since we already had the fitting swapped, it only took about 10 minutes to bolt it on. So the first thing I want you to do is turn the fuel pump on so we can check the float levels and make sure we don't have any leaks. Denny's old 68 Camaro has sat out there in the shop for so long the mud daubers have made nests on the side of the car. But that's not going to stop us from getting the car out today and taking it out for a little test drive and topping it off with some fuel. For some reason the gas gauge isn't working, so Denny went ahead and put 10 gallons of fuel in the tank that he had stored in the trunk. So far, so good. The car sits there and idles without any problem, it's running nice and cool, and the brakes are still up on it. So Denny and I hopped in the car and decided to take it up the road real quick to make sure his old Camaro still feels roadworthy. With the brand new ATM carburetor installed on his Camaro, Denny says the car runs and drives like he just parked it yesterday. So I called Tanner and told him just to take the 64 back to our shop, and Denny will drop me off after we take his old Camaro to town and top it off with a fresh tank of E85 over at the sheet station. Now, although I haven't run the numbers on this car, I believe it was an original SS 354 speed car from the factory, black on black. The car does appear to have its original 12-bolt rear end in it, and it does have a posi unit and a 342 or a 373 rear gear. I'm not sure that the 4-speed is original, but it appears to be a close ratio transmission, and the big block under the hood is a complete unknown. But it does run smooth, and it doesn't seem to put out any smoke. Since we swapped the car over to E85, it'll idle in traffic all day long at 180 degrees without a problem, and it also seems to run pretty decent too. Christmas. You're crazy as hell, Denny.
Oh my God. Let me out.
You gonna kiss the ground? You made it back?
Freaking Denny's wild in this thing, man. I said, hey man, when you turn right up here, just kind of go through the gears and see how it does.
You know what that means. You can't say that to a guy driving a stick shift.
Man. Oh, I love pounding gears in this car. God. Oh.
I like it when you pound gears in this car by yourself. Dude, it runs pretty decent.
Oh, it runs great.
I mean, right out of the box, like
right out of the box.
right out of the box, just bolted it on. You know.
They make simple carburetors for people who don't understand them. You just tell them the
Simple
engine build.
carburetors for simple people. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. That's their new saying right there.
Well, now you can take it back home, start getting it cleaned up, get all the mud dauber shit off of it.
Oh my God, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got plenty of room, work to do in the interior, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's a mess. But if I get the outside done, I'll consider that a major milestone. Thank you, buddy, so much. Thank you so much.
So we'll see you Saturday.
Yeah.
Jack's
yeah.
Wax.
Yeah, just message me time.
I will.
And I'll be there.
Well, I got you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tanner, take care, buddy.
You too.
See you, Denny. Be careful.
Okay, man.
So this brings us to Thursday, and yet another project that I've got waiting in the wings. All right, everybody, so it's Thursday, and we got Denny all taken care of yesterday. He's pretty excited. He's got his Camaro back. That's really good for him. He loves that car. He loves driving it. He loves shifting gears. He's going to bring it out to the Jack's Wax event on Saturday. We're all pretty excited for that. The kids left out early this morning for Turkey Bash, so they're going racing down in Kentucky. They won't be there this weekend, but me and Vicky and Addie and Denny's going to be there, so if you guys want to come out and see us, come on out. In other news, I'm headed up to Bob's this morning. We dynoed that 502 big block Ford last week for that beautiful 64 Mercury Marauder. We made a pull on it, but it was clearly not happy. Like, there was something definitely not quite right. So Bob went ahead and pulled the heads off of it. He sent me a smoke signal that I need to come up here and take a look at this. So I guess that's what we're going to do. We're going to go see how bad this Ford is. Something's definitely wrong, and it's probably more than just a tune-up. When I stopped down to visit John Menarchik in Kentucky, he explained to me that the big block Ford seemed to have some valve train problems. Now, when he won the new ATM carburetor a few months ago, I'd hoped that he'd bring the car up and let me put the carburetor on for him. And while he didn't mind driving the car a short distance, he definitely didn't feel comfortable driving the car from Kentucky all the way up to see us in Central Ohio. So I told John if he pulls the engine out and brings it up to the machine shop, we'll put it on the dyno, check it all out, and fix whatever's wrong. Once Bob had the heads off of it, it didn't take long to figure out exactly what the problem is. There were witness marks on all 8 pistons where the intake valves had been hitting. Now, my gut instinct here tells me that the valve springs on this engine may not have enough spring pressure to control the weight of the valve train, and this is a frequent problem on a high-performance engine with hydraulic lifters. Although flat tappet hydraulic camshafts are inexpensive and relatively low maintenance, high spring pressures tend to collapse the lifter body itself, and with enough mileage can turn the convex shape of the bottom of the lifter into a concave one, especially if the lifter fails to turn in the bore. And so the best solution for this application is hydraulic roller lifters, like these from Johnson & Iskey. So we're going to set this engine up for a hydraulic roller cam. That way, from here on out, we don't ever have to worry about a lifter going flat, or even worse, maybe even concaving. That's when you got real trouble. Bob plans to pull the heads apart tomorrow and check valve spring pressures, but we also want to check the cam timing, and we want to check piston to valve clearance, which Bob just so happens to have all the proper tools to do the job right.
So this is a very nice tool that I borrowed off of my flow bench that uses to push the valve down to measure flow. It works really great for checking piston to valve because you can set it up on here. I usually set this at 0 instead of backlash because I want to find out what the very closest is. And so then when I put it at 20 degrees or there approximately, I check it depending on where, with the degree wheel on, where it seems to be the tightest, and I just shove down on this and see how much room there is between the piston to valve. 1, 2, 64.
So this engine that we've got over there, evidently, maybe somebody didn't check it, or maybe, like, we don't know yet what caused it.
And the other part, as I was telling you earlier, that I want to check is if we got some really weak valve springs, that could cause that valve to hang open for it to smack, because when we got up in high RPM is when we believe it's when it started hitting.
Well, you could hear something was not happy.
It was not happy, or, you know, it was basically valve float. And, you know, we got some lifters, it's not working either. It's a combination of something.
Yeah.
And
We just want to make sure that we fix it when it goes back together.
we want to make sure we know what the problem is, so when we put it back together, there's not a reoccurrence.
Yes. So this is what we're going to do when we go to put the Ford back together. We're going to check piston to valve clearance. We're absolutely going to check valve spring pressures. And the Johnson Isky lifters that we have, although they are a hydraulic roller lifter, they are rated for like 180 to 200 pounds of seat pressure.
200 pounds of seat pressure.
Yeah, and where, you know, on a typical flat tappet cam, you could not get away with that much valve spring pressure. And the higher the lift and the higher the RPM range of the cam, the more valve spring pressure is required to control the valve train, to keep the lifter seated on the camshaft, to keep the push rods happy, keep everything happy.
Everything happy.
We're going to look into that when we put his Ford back together.
And we're going to tear it apart and remeasure what we got.
Okay, very good. Well, after about a week's worth of rain, it's finally dried up here in central Ohio. The farmers are getting the corn and beans off, and the track is starting to dry out as well. All right, everybody, good morning, good morning. It is Friday. It's the day before Jack's Wax Street Madness, and the excitement is building, especially for Denny. So unfortunately, the El Camino isn't running. It's back at the shop in pieces, so that's not coming out this weekend. The Malibu is at 10 Soldier race cars. 10 Soldier. Not 10 soldiers, 10 Soldier race cars. And it's getting a 6-point put in it. So I'm gonna run Billy's 55, but it's a little dirty. It needs cleaned up a little bit. I think Tanner wiped it all off the other day, but it got left out in the rain for a day or something, and it's pretty messy. I need to run into Jack's Wax and restock on all my detailing supplies because they're non-existent. With as many cars as we've got to keep clean at the shop, the only way my detailing supplies last is if I lock them in the trunk of the cars or hide the stuff. So this morning I'm making a trip into Jack's Wax by the airport to get stocked up and visit with Todd and Jared, who just so happened to pull in the parking lot as I was walking in the showroom. It appears that everybody's been pretty busy and they're trying to get ready for the Jack's Wax Street Madness event this weekend at Trails. Todd was up to his ears in VIP passes. But you know what they say, you gotta hustle if you want to make it. Hey, what are you doing?
Street Madness prep in full effect.
You're slacking.
Somebody's got to work around here. Jared can sleep all morning.
I gave Todd a few minutes to get caught up on his chores before we went down to the retail store so I can stock up on all the supplies I need to keep the cars cleaned up. Todd got me hooked up with some microfiber towels and everything I need to go home and clean up the 55. So you guys are all ready for this weekend, right?
Not yet, but we're getting ready. We're always like last
What is
minute.
all this stuff?
We got some. We always do like exclusive Halloween. You know, you would never think as a wax company that apparel thing's crazy, but we always do exclusive drop at Street Madness. All this stuff will be out there. So we got guys on the last minute boxing everything up. They're probably all wanting to call off today, but because they knew we had a serious bunch of.
They're going to call in sick?
Yeah, they're going to call in sick. They're probably on their way out of here right now.
Sick
They
day.
Walk over, yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, we're just last minute Street Madness prep, man.
Unfortunately, I couldn't stay long because I've got work to do to get ready myself. All right, man. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to get home and get to cleaning up that 55 Chevy.
Yep, man. Good to see you. And you may not recognize me tomorrow night. I'll be in full costume. So I can't wait to see you.
What are you dressing up as?
Mad Hatter this year.
Mad Hatter?
We always like go all out. We try to, as the company, we try to go all out. So my wife and I will be Mad Hatter and Alice. Yeah. So if you see a weird Mad Hatter come up to you, just know it's me.
After I got done visiting with Todd and Jared at Jack's Wax, I drove straight home so I could get started working on Billy's 55. Now, I don't drive this car very often, but it seems like every time I get in it, it needs fuel, and such was the case this time. The tank's only got about 3 gallons left in the bottom. So rather than haul fuel back and forth in 5-gallon jugs, I decided I'd just drive the car straight down to the filling station, not far from our house, and just down the street from the track. The 555 big block Chevy in Billy's 55 runs on 110 octane race gas. Much like the 427 we pulled out of Mark's 55, this big block does not like pump gas. Thankfully, our local marathon station keeps Cam 2 in stock right out front at the pumps. But as you can imagine, at $10 a gallon, we don't drive the 55 on the street very often. Once I had the tank topped off with race gas, it was time to head home and wave goodbye to everybody that was waiting to hear me fire this thing up. One thing is definitely for certain, this two-tone 55 Chevy gets a lot of attention, even if it's not clean.
Is it all cleaned and ready?
Yeah. I filled it up with fuel and gave it a bath. Tanner just changed oil in it. I think he ran the valves in it the other day. They sound okay. So,
Should be good to go.
yeah, should be good to go.
It should be a great day. I mean, the weather's gonna be great.
What are they calling for?
Like 78.
Really?
Yeah, for a high. It's gonna be
That'd be good.
beautiful, sunny, nice day.
All right, well, next I gotta wash the truck, get the trailer hooked up, and get all that stuff ready.
Yes, I need to deal with the trailer too because it's fall and stink bugs are invading the back that's been opened up. So I gotta go clean all those out.
You're getting better. You now wait for the beep. Usually you start talking before I even hit record, and now you've learned to wait for the beep.
Yeah, see?
It's progress.
Yeah.
All right, what's up?
All right, so just reiterating, tomorrow we're going to be at Jack's Wax. Gates open, I believe, at 4, and we'll be there passing out candy.
Tomorrow is Saturday.
What did I say?
You said tomorrow, but most people aren't gonna see it.
Let's start over. All right, Saturday, October 5th, we are going to be at Jack's Wax at National Trail Raceway. Gates open, I believe, at 4. Bring your hot rods, dress up if you want, bring your kids out to trick or treat. I'll be passing out candy. We'll have a little bit of merch there. Bill's going to be running the 55. It's going to be a good time.
Billy's 55.
Yeah, Billy's 55. What else? So the giveaways ongoing.
Which giveaway?
For the fort. I was saying that. The giveaway for the 496 big block is live. So go on the website. Every order counts as an entry. We have new stuff. Today, I added our very first gray hoodie. It looks so sharp. It's got the, what is that called? Hold on.
The 55 Chevy.
Driven by Freedom.
Yeah.
Yes, I couldn't think of what it said on it. Driven by Freedom. Yeah, so, oh, and look, the We the People,
Jesus.
sorry, We the People tumbler.
Right.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Love those. Yeah, so there's all kinds of new
Are
stuff.
those on the website now?
Yeah, they're on
Okay,
the website.
because you just shoved this thing in my face. And you're like,
Look, yeah,
but you didn't say it's on the website.
obviously.
You leave a lot of details out.
You just nitpick. These, there's tons of new stuff on the website. Flannels, you name it. Go check it out.
And you can get entered to win that 496 big block Chevy
Yes.
pump gas motor that we're putting together up at Bob's. The camshaft is supposed to be here in a couple of days.
Oh boy.
So then we can go ahead and finish the engine up, check for piston to valve clearance, put the heads on it, blah, blah, blah,
Dyno it.
and dyno it.
Oh boy.
And then we're probably going to put it in Billy's 55 for a little while.
Ooh. Could we use Chumpy's 55? It's sitting empty.
Yeah. Billy's engine needs to come out, I think, and we need to
Get
take a look at
freshened
it
up.
and freshen it up. But yeah, so
All right.
unless Tanner loses his phone for a week. You know, if he loses his phone for a couple of days, and it takes a couple of days out of our schedule. We done?
Yes, I got the stink bugs under control. Look, I Googled
Oh, come
online.
on.
If you take a pot of hot water full of Dawn dish soap and white vinegar, and when you catch them, you dunk them in that, done. So I've been out there.
You've been hand catching stink
Yes.
bugs and throwing them in a pot of, why don't you just squish them?
No, because that's the problem. When you squish them, they make the stink and the others come to the stink. So you have to put them in the soapy water that traps them, they die, and then they don't emit their stink, which attracts more stink bugs. That's why you can't vacuum them, because if you vacuum them, then your vacuum stinks like it. It's terrible. It's a whole issue.
All right, so as Vicky told you, we're going to Street Madness tomorrow at National Trail Raceway, put on by Jack's Wax. We're going to be there Saturday. Come and see us. Sunday, I'll probably be home editing and trying to get caught up on some rest. And then Monday, I'm headed back to Cincinnati. And I've got something really special for you guys. I'm really excited about it. The event that we're putting on at Edgewater is going to be called Plates and 28s. Now, there's going to be a test and tune on Thursday night, just a regular test and tune, just like they would normally do. And then Friday is going to be the lifted and lowered car meet. And we're going to have the burnout contest. We talked about that a little bit the last video. And then Saturday is the Plates and 28 streetcar shootout. And that's really going to be exciting. I've got some really big news. Some very well-known people in the drag and drive community have reached out to me, and they said, hey, we hear you're doing a cruise. Yeah? Well, we'd like to be involved in some way. We'd like to maybe help you with that. Okay. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be the first of its kind. I've got some really juicy details for you guys, and it'll be in the next video, but let's just say the cruise is not going to be your standard streetcar cruise, okay? Let's just say you're going to probably have to call in sick. Also, thanks to NHRA Division 3, Director William Tharp, we are going to have Wallies, the Speed for All Wallies. We're going to have those, and we're also going to have some special Wallies for the index classes as well. So, getting pretty excited about this deal. We'll have more information in the next video. Like I said, I'm headed to Edgewater Monday. I'm headed back down there, and we've got some really interesting stuff coming up. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the next video.
Oh, God, Denny.